It's here, part two, the most accurate rankings of every wide receiver group in the NFC. Joined again with Alex. Alex, how you doing today?
Great, man. Can't wait to get into it.
Me too. Fresh cut, looking good, looking good. Let's just hop right into it today. We already posted the AFC tier list. Make sure to go check that out with all the wide receivers. Gonna jump right in, starting off with the NFC North.
Yep. So first team we're going to hit is the Vikings. One of the best receiving groups in the NFL, period. You got arguably the best wide receiver in the league right now with Justin Jefferson. Every single season, he's at least 1,000 yards. He's almost at 6,000 career yards already. And then they got Jordan Addison as well. He had 10 touchdowns last season, tied for fourth in the NFL. We're starting off strong. This very well might be an S tier. I might put them in the top of A, but they're going to be somewhere right around there. What are your thoughts?
We can do a little movement on here, but top of A easily. Trying to think last episode, we had the Dolphins in the S tier.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good list, I
guess. This might be an S tier team to get it started.
Yeah, it might be. The only issue that might be holding them back a little bit is we're unsure about the quarterback situation, JJ McCarthy, Sam Darnold. So I'm in between S and A. You tell me what you want. I'll let you pick the first one.
Let's start off hot. Let's go S.
All right. First team in the S tier. Next up, we got the Packers. A great season from their wide receivers. A great season from Jordan Love with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. I think that they outperformed what we expected them to do. And I think Christian Watson is proven to be a really good number one when healthy. I think that they're going to have another good season. So, I'd be good putting them at the top of B for right now. I don't think that they're that bad. I think overall it's pretty well-rounded, and I think Jordan Love works really good with these guys.
Yeah, I think it's just a really young group, still a bit unproven. Obviously, great second half of the season last year, but they're going to have to come out and do it again and put a full season worth of work together. I would go B. I'm okay going B. I'm not sure if I'll have them at the top of B, but maybe towards the bottom. I'm fine with that.
Okay, we'll lock that one in.
All right. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears. Completely new offense coming in. You got Caleb Williams, obviously number one overall pick. Throw into these guys. You got Keenan Allen, one of the most consistent receivers that they picked up from the Chargers this offseason. They got DJ Moore, who's been killing it the last few years. And then they also picked up Rome Odunze in the draft. Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen, I think, are going to have similar play styles. They're both bigger body receivers that are just going to be very, very technical. Again, I think besides the fact that Rome Odunze is a bit unproven so far, he hasn't played a single NFL snap. You got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, who are both easily 1,000-yard receivers. This might be another S tier receiving group. Even if Rome Odunze does not come out and produce like people are projecting him to, you still have two of the top 10 receivers, in my opinion, in the league on this team. So Caleb Williams is set up for success. If they don't do well, it's going to be on him.
I think I said in the last episode at the beginning that I thought the NFC wide receiving groups could be better than the AFC, and I feel like we're off to a really hot start right here. The names are just popping off the board. They didn't need to take Rome Odunze in the first round, but they did, and this wide receiving group is absolutely loaded. They have, on paper at least, from what I would expect, they have better weapons than altogether maybe than the Vikings, because they got three potential number ones where the Vikings have two. They're high up on this list, that's for sure. I'm not sure what to do here because it's on the back of Caleb too. How good do we think Caleb's going to connect with these guys?
We said he was going to be elite.
We did. Top of A tier. It's the Bears. It is the Bears.
It is the Bears.
If they go 500 this year, 8-9, 9-8, that's probably a good season.
I think that the Bears are better than, I don't know. Maybe they're not better than the Vikings.
In the same division too. That makes it tricky. top of A, and we can move
We'll
it.
go top of A for now. Top of A for now.
The last one in the NFC North, Detroit Lions. They had a great season last year. I think their wide receivers played really good. Obviously highlighted by Amon-Ra St. Brown. He got his big contract extension, and I just expect him to keep on the same trajectory, over 1,000 yards, have a really good season. Their number 2 wide receiver, Jameson Williams, I think he has a lot of potential from Alabama, was a first-round pick, only had 354 yards last year. I know he's had trouble being on the field, suspensions, injuries, all that stuff. So I think it's kind of a tricky one because Amon-Ra St. Brown could be a top 10 wide receiver in the league. And then after that, I think the production kind of falls off. Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones. So they have good depth pieces. But the B category, right above the Packers, is just staring at me right now.
I'd agree with that. I think Amon-Ra is an elite receiver, but Jameson Williams has not done very much so far in his career. I know obviously he was serving that suspension, so that might have thrown him off a bit. But I mean, outside of Amon-Ra, I'm just not sure how great this receiving group really is. But Amon-Ra can help to carry some of the weight. Above the Packers and B, I think is good for me.
Okay. Moving over to the NFC West, starting off with the Rams. Rams receiving group's pretty good too. Who would have thought Puka Nacua would have put together the season that he did last year? Cooper Kupp's still there. I know he's getting a little bit older in age, but I think he can still produce. Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, good depth pieces. Overall, I feel like it's a pretty well-rounded group, and when you're 1 and 2 or 1,000-yard receivers, this is going to be a top-heavy tier list, I feel like. I mean, I would put them above the Lions. That might put them in the A tier.
They might belong bottom of A. I think Cooper Kupp, the main concern with him for me is going to be the injuries. Is he able at this point in his career to put together a full season? Obviously, Puka Nacua coming in doing a great job right from the beginning. Like you said, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, some solid, role-playing pieces there. So, I think top of B. I think top of B. I just don't know if Cooper Kupp at this point is going to be able to put together a full season. And, if he could, I would put him in A, but I don't see that at this point. I think he's a little too injury prone.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Top of B for the Rams.
All right, so next up we got the 49ers, another elite receiving group there. I mean, you got Brandon Ayuk, who, first few seasons of his career, just seems solid, really broke out when he got to the Niners. You got Debo, who's the most versatile weapon in all of the NFL. Go Cox. You just picked up Ricky Pearsall out of University of Florida. He's going to be a really strong route runner, very sure hands. Then you got Jawan Jennings as a 4th option. I mean, honestly, if Ayuk stays and they're able to keep him and Debo, we might be looking at S again.
I like it at the top of S tier, to be honest. I think it's a complete group. Brandon Ayuk over 1,300 yards last year. Debo almost 900. They both had a handful of touchdowns. If they're both on the team at the start of the season, they had a first-round rookie with Ricky Pearsall. I'd slot him right at the top of S.
I might want to keep the Vikings ahead, though, just because they do have the best receiver in the league. And then Jordan Addison, again, putting up 10 touchdowns as a secondary option. I mean, that's kind of nutty.
Jordan Addison,
I mean, obviously,
really
yes,
good.
they're unsure at the QB position. So, yeah, I don't know. If we're going to factor that into it, then I'd be okay putting the Niners above the Vikings. But I think if you took the Vikings receivers and plugged them into the Niners offense, they would be more productive than what the Niners have now. Not by much. It's probably a coin toss, but yeah, I'm cool with either.
Okay, we'll slot him in right behind the Vikings. I think that's fair. I think consensus, Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league. I think that's just a tough one to top. Next up, we have the Seahawks, starting off with Tyler Lockett. Been there forever. It feels like as long as I've been watching football, he's been their guy. Super consistent, great hands. Small guy, but he's going to get the ball. DK Metcalf, the exact opposite. Massive jump ball specialist, 50-50. It's going his way. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, which the rookie season wasn't quite there, but I think he showed flashes, and I think it's just such a loaded group that it also makes it a little tricky to spread the ball around, but so much. I like this group. It feels like we're gonna have nobody at D. I like this group. I'd put this group in A easily, maybe even S tier behind the 49ers.
I wouldn't
My
go S, but I'll go A.
my only
I'll
hesitation
go
is
bottom of A. It's just I think Tyler Lockett's getting kind of old.
he is getting old, and the quarterback situation is some like Gino. I am not as much of a fan, so I would be comfortable putting him behind the Bears.
Yeah, that works. I think DK is an elite receiver. I think Tyler Lockett's still a great role player, and I think Jackson Smith and Jigga is on the up. I mean, I think he's got really solid potential. So, I think that overall is a well-rounded receiving group. Definitely could see them going at the bottom of A. All right, and then to wrap up the NFC West, we got the Cardinals. Not the best receiving group. Obviously, they picked up Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft. So supposed to be, one of the best receiving prospects we've seen coming out the draft in years. We got a little bit of flack last episode or over the last two episodes for ranking people that have not taken an NFL snap really high. So, which I get. There's a lot of busts that happen. So I think this might be our first C tier team. Again, we got Kyler who played just the end of last season, so we got to see what he can come out and do. We got to see what that connection's like. Got to see what the protection is. But I mean, outside of MHJ, they have Zay Jones and then just a few other like role players. We got to kind of round it out some. I would say that they go in C tier.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the quarterback tier list, I had Kyler pretty high, so I'm itching to put somebody in the D tier, but I just don't think it's them quite yet. I think if Kyler plays good, Marvin Harrison's going to have a great rookie season. I think C tier is very fair for what we're looking at here. Starting off the NFC East with the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, obviously number one wide receiver, had a mess of yards last year, played so good. I think that we're expecting that to happen again. He's their best weapon by far. Number two, Brandon Cooks, solid. I think he's like a really good number two. Not going to do anything crazy, but he's not going to be the reason that you lose games. Jalen Tolbert's there as well. I think that this group overall is pretty good. I think when it comes time for the playoffs, they'll do their usual thing. But I think overall, this group isn't bad. But there's a lot of groups out here that are better. They're definitely in the lower half of this tier, in my opinion.
What are you thinking?
Somewhere around B, maybe C, somewhere around below the Lions. Below the Lions, maybe in between the Lions and the Packers is where I would put them. What are you thinking?
They're definitely way better than the Packers receiving group. I would put them above the Lions. I think CD is a more productive receiver. I mean, they're also in a very pass-happy offense, but I'd put them top of B. I mean, that's coming from a Washington fan who gets absolutely cooked by the Cowboys every single year. So, like, I see them at their peak twice a season, and it's hard to watch for me. So I would put them top of B. I think Seahawks still have a little either that or bottom of A, honestly. I mean, CD's kind of carrying the group, but I'll at least go top of B.
A tier right now is strong. I think above Los Angeles though. I know you weren't high on Cooper Kupp, but between him and Puka, I feel like that's such a good one too that I just don't see the Cowboys having. But you play him twice a year. If you're willing to put him that high and you expect that much from them, I'll honor that.
All right, next up we got the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously highlighted by A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. I mean, one of the strongest 1-2 punches in the NFC. I mean, a lot of really strong duos out here, but I think this is definitely going to be A tier. The question for me is, do they go above or below the Bears? I think that they go right below the Bears.
Okay. That was my question too. I was thinking the same spot, but I was thinking the same tier at least, but I was thinking above the Bears. Devonta Smith went for over 1,000 yards last year. A.J. Brown went for over 1,400 yards last year. They both had pretty good seasons, and the Eagles didn't even play that good overall. And I expect the Eagles to be a lot better this season than they were last. Last season was a disappointment after going to the Super Bowl the year before. I'd be perfectly fine putting them above the Bears in the A tier. I mean, they're both young, and I think that they both bring a different skill set, and they're both number one wide receivers, in my opinion.
I don't know if Devonta Smith is a number one wide receiver. I think he's a really good number two, but I just don't see him as that X receiver. But I mean, it works perfectly well how it is. I will concede to them going above the Bears only because I think that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams right now, or will be. Just overall going to be more productive. So I'll put them top of A.
The New York Giants, they draft Malik Neighbors in the first round. He's got a lot of potential. He's got Daniel Jones throwing to him. And they got Darius Slayton as well. This wide receiving group is probably one of the worst in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. If they hadn't drafted Malik Neighbors, they would have nobody. But at least they got him. I'm good with the D tier here. I think that they're in the bottom. Yep.
Put them down.
All right.
Next up, we got my Washington Commanders. I think we're a slept-on group here. Now, Terry McLaurin is one of the most criminally underrated wide receivers in the entire league. He's put up 4 straight seasons with over 1,000 receiving yards, and that's with absolutely no stability at the quarterback position. We are like, over the last 8 years, we've pretty much been what the Browns are historically, just like steady rotation of new QBs coming in. And Terry has been the one consistent piece of our offense since he joined the team. Outside of that, we got Jahan Dotson, who I think is really going to be a solid number 2. I'm not sure if anybody else saw that clip on Twitter of Jaden Daniels dropping that absolute dime in Jahan Dotson's lap. Like, it was beautiful. So really excited to see if they can recreate that out on the field next year. We just got Luke McCaffrey too, Christian McCaffrey's brother. If he's half of what his brother can do, he's going to be a great third option. So, overall, I think we've got some solid pieces. I would not say that we are, elite by any means. I think we're trying to head in that direction, though. I would say because Terry McLaurin is as good as he is, I'll put us in the bottom of B.
Terry McLaurin, absolute stud. He's kind of like Mike Evans. He doesn't get a lot of credit, but he keeps going over 1,000 yards every season, no matter what, even when he's not on that great of a team, really. Yep. We had Jaden Daniels at the top, offensive rookie of the year. We thought he was going to have an amazing season.
Yeah, we sure did.
So the question is, are they going to run the ball or are they going to throw the ball? I think it'll be a good mix of both. If we get some production out of Luke McCaffrey, Jahan Dotson, we might be. I like it. I like it just as much as the Cowboys. I would be okay bottom of A.
You're not even the Washington fan. No, put him in B. As much as I would like to think that Jahan Dotson's going to go out and be like one of the best number 2 receivers in the league, like, I need to see it. One clip from practice isn't really going to be able to do it for me. Also, he's had a few injury concerns. Terry McLaurin, in my opinion, is an elite receiver. He's incredible. He goes out and just makes some stupid catches, at least a few every season. So, middle of B, I think is fine. But I think Terry, if you have a good quarterback, is going to be as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I would maybe even put him right above the Lions then.
Between the Lions and the Rams.
And the Rams.
I like that. That. Yeah, I think if Terry and Jaden Daniels can click fast, I think that it's going to explode. And they have good 2 and 3 options. I'm really excited to see what Luke McCaffrey does because don't you just expect him to be really good like Christian, even though he was drafted late?
I'd like to see it. I would like to think that that's kind of what he grew up learning is, how to be an elite receiver. So he's definitely got a slimmer frame, but, it's an overall still big, tall body. I'm sure he's going to have, great solid hands, but I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of his tape. So, it's going to be a bit of a surprise for me.
Well, that's good. A lot of potential at the least. Finally, NFC South, the Falcons. Who's their quarterback going to be? How good's Kirk Cousins going to be? Throwing the Drake London 2 seasons in the NFL, never over 1,000 yards, which to me is very surprising. I feel like he's one of those guys you always want on your fantasy team. There's always like so much potential from him, and he's I think he's really good. But to say he hasn't had 1,000 yards yet is kind of crazy. Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, Ray McLeod. Interesting group here because I feel like after the number one, it kind of falls off. So
And
I
you
think,
also got to think one of their main targets is going to be Kyle Pitts. I mean, I think the Falcons are going to be really interesting this year. Obviously, they are notorious for not using their weapons, but they got some new coaches in there now. Hopefully, some that will actually use the pieces that they have at their disposal. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely a very unproven group. We're going to kind of have to see how this new offense works. I mean, you got Kirk Cousins, you got Michael Penix. So, I'll be curious to see if they're kind of swapping them in and out. But I mean, overall, just based on the fact that they're kind of unproven and, they have their number one in Drake London, who I think can, I think this is going to be the season he puts up 1,000-yard season. But outside of him, I'm really not sure where we're going. Darnell Mooney is okay. Rondale Moore, solid. Ray McLeod, solid, but not any like standout number two. For that reason, I would probably put them top of C.
yeah, yep, right above the Cardinals. I agree
Yep.
100%. And I
Cool.
agree too. First season for Drake London to go over 1,000 yards. I think that's got to be a lock. With Kirk Cousins in there, the way he likes to throw the ball, it's got to be a lock.
Agreed. All right. Next up, we got the Carolina Panthers, highlighted by Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and then the first pick in the second round, Xavier Legette. No, sorry. No, they traded up and
Yeah.
grabbed him at the end of the first. So I think Xavier Legette's going to, come in. I think he was a steal, honestly. I mean, we see so many wide receiver busts in the draft. I think he'll be better than probably half the players that were drafted above him, at least better than half the receivers drafted above him. Really explosive player. Obviously, he only had the one season where he just recently broke out, but I mean, yeah, he went out there and balled. I mean, as a Carolina fan watching him, I mean, putting up just like taking over games. So, I think that could be a really interesting dynamic. Bryce Young, I saw a picture. Man put on some weight this offseason, dude. He's looking big.
That's
He's
good. He
looking
needs
much
to.
bigger than before. So, they invested a lot of money into their O line. So hopefully with some better protection, he'll have more time to get it out to his targets. They also still have Terrence Marshall Jr. and Jonathan Mingo as well. I think Jonathan Mingo and Xavier Legette are going to kind of serve a similar purpose. So I wouldn't be surprised to see X starting to take over a lot of the snaps that Mingo would be getting. But overall, I still don't necessarily see it. I don't think they have a true defined number one yet. So for that reason, I would also put them in C tier. Maybe even top of D.
Here's what I think. I think that the Panthers might be the most well-rounded wide receiver group in the NFC. Deontay Johnson, fantastic deep threat. Adam Thielen, over 100 receptions last year, even though they were not good at all. Xavier Legette, big body, great at contested catches. Terrence Marshall Jr., Jonathan Mingo, still a chance there to develop. I like this group a lot. I think that this group has a lot of potential. If Bryce Young can stay clean in the pocket and deliver throws like we saw him do at Alabama, I think that this group could be, honestly, A tier, right below the Seahawks, or top of B tier above the Cowboys. I think that they have really good weapons. It's so diverse, too. All these guys are good at different things. I think this group has endless potential, especially compared to what we saw last year. I think it's going to be so much better.
I mean, do you think they're making the playoffs or something? where are you getting this? Like, Deontay Johnson's hasn't done a whole lot for the Steelers. I mean, they got George Pickens, but you've seen what a good offense with a good number two receiver can do. Deontay Johnson was not really doing that. Again, then you got Adam Thielen, who's only getting older. Yes, he's a very sure-handed receiver, but he's not an explosive receiver by any means. He can steadily pick you up 5-10 yards. but he's not going to be that, guy to go out there and win you a game. I don't know if any of the guys on this team are the go out and make a play and win you a game type of receivers, which in today's league is almost a necessity. So, I don't see how I'm trying to put them in A. I mean, yes, they have depth. I mean, it's like if this was Madden, right? I bet all of those are like 75 overall receivers. They got like 575 overalls. If you play Madden, you know that that's not really going to work. It'll be okay when you get to like if you got a long drive and they start subbing out their secondaries. But I mean, like, no, I mean, I'll go C. I can't go higher than C. I mean, you're the one controlling the tier list, but I'm firmly standing on C.
I think Deontay Johnson, new setting, new quarterback. I think he could be so good. He burned the Ravens so many times, and he has like little things that he messes up, like drops. If he can just fix the drops. Adam Thielen's still producing. Xavier Legette, we saw what he could do. Big play potential. Terrence Marshall Jr., Jonathan Mingo, not going to move the needle that much. I mean, B tier's loaded, so I feel like we're kind of maxed out at B tier at the moment.
I mean, you also have to think Panthers have been the worst team in the league for 2 years. I kind of need to see it before I start putting any of their position groups in an A tier.
All right, so what are we doing here? In between Falcons and Cardinals, is that fair?
I don't even know. I mean, at least Cardinals have some optimism. They just got one of the best receivers coming out the draft in like the last decade.
Yeah, I just think the Panthers.
I mean, yeah, no, I'll go above them since they got more depth. So that's fine. They can go right below the Falcons.
All right, lock that in before we change our minds.
Yeah, for real.
Next up, the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield played good last season, which meant so did Mike Evans. Chris Godwin pretty good too. Mike Evans, another 1,000-yard season. 9th in yards, 1,255. 13 touchdowns, tied for first. I just don't see the production going down. It just seems to continue to go up and, stay good every season. Chris Godwin over 1,000 yards again. Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan. I like this group. Another good one. I mean, the production that we've seen from them, honestly, A tier, I think. Maybe between the Bears and the Seahawks.
Yeah. I could see it. Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans, I'm pretty sure he's had at least 1,000 yards in every single season that he's played.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as a vet now, too. I mean, that's extremely impressive. Chris Godwin is another one of those receivers that's just like an elite number 2.
Yeah.
If you make him the number 1 receiver, he might not be in that elite category, but as a number 2 option, I mean, great. So Baker obviously had a career season last year. Looking to see if he can continue that now that he got I believe he got that contract extension.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say that this belongs in A tier right below the Bears.
Okay, that was easy. This group's really good. They just need to put it together because I think overall, like this offense has so much potential, and this division is wacky. Falcons, Panthers, Bucks, Saints. So it's always a team right around 500 that ends up winning the division. So it doesn't take a whole lot.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. And then to wrap it up, we got the New Orleans Saints receiving group headlined by Chris Olave. You also got Rashid Shaheed and Cedric Wilson Jr. I think this is going to be another one of those teams, too, where you're kind of unsure at quarterback. You got one young receiver who was productive. He was 17th in receptions and 17th in yards last year. So, put up really overall solid, good numbers. I think this is another one of those teams that probably goes somewhere in the top half of C tier. But, I just don't know at this point if I can put them in the B tier group just because of the quarterback situation there. What do you think?
I feel like they never really got on the same page last season. Chris Olave, really good number 1. When we're talking about number 1s, I mean, he's probably better than Drake London. He's putting up better yards. He's putting up better stats. So if we're going to go off stats and I expect him to continue to improve. We haven't seen a 1,000-yard season from Drake London. That's just tough because I like the quarterback situation in Atlanta. I don't like it at the Saints. I think that, we're putting the Panthers down here, so that's fine. I think that Chris Olave, maybe they're right around the Panthers level, either right above or right below the Panthers is where I'd see them.
How do you feel putting the Panthers above the Falcons and then putting the Saints above the Panthers?
Panthers,
Because I know you
Saints.
were fighting for Panthers to be an A. So I think kind of the way that it's fallen now, I'm comfortable putting Panthers at the top just from the depth aspect.
Okay. And then Saints 2
In
in the
between
C
them,
tier.
Yep.
Falcons 3. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think
Cool.
that works out good.
Cool. I like that. Lock it in.
Locked it in. I definitely feel like this is top heavy. I mean, 5 teams in the B tier. I think they're all deserving. They all have really good weapons. Young weapons too, it feels like. Puka Nacua, Terry McLaurin, Amon-Ra, Christian Watson. CD's still young. He needs to get paid. I'm sure that's coming. I think I saw something that he's waiting until Justin Jefferson gets paid. Justin Jefferson's sitting at the top of this S tier. The Vikings are up there because of him. Otherwise, their quarterback situation is in shambles. Jordan Addison played great last year when he was injured, but still Jordan Addison isn't the reason they're up there. It's Justin Jefferson. So I think overall the board fell really well. I think it goes to show how much talent's in the NFC. I think that when it comes to wide receivers, I think the NFC, I think that they win.
I'd have to agree. I mean, AFC, I think, has the better quarterbacks, but when it comes to the supporting talent, I think the NFC's got them beat. So I like the list.
I like the list too. I think it felt good. Any final thoughts before we send it off?
Nah, man.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Sofa Sports Podcast. Make sure to check out the AFC wide receiver tier list if you haven't already. Like and subscribe if you like the video. Until next time.